Hello everybody, it's me Lucid. So, we have a kind of special video today for y'all, because I have some guests. So I have Tenebris Infinite, Burgerplayer and Mark and Cheese. And they're all having a about 5-minute review of the Fnix DLC. And I'll be having a review as well. So, in general, I will be showing clips of everyone having their own review of the DLC, and then at the end I'll have my own review, because I think the others should have their opinions shared first, because it only feels right, because they agreed on doing this for me. So, extra thanks to Tenebris Infinite, Burgerplayer and Morgan Cheese. And Tenebris is going first.
What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebris Infinite, and so my thoughts on Fnix Rising itself. For the Fnix Rising story, I'm not going to spoil anything here, but Fnix Rising's story is one of the most important additions to the Generation Zero story that we've had so far in the game. It brings about some massive relevations to it. Alongside that, the mission design for Fnix Rising is possibly some of the best mission design that we've seen in Generation Zero so far, with the team really flexing some creative muscles on various different types of missions, from stealth missions to escort missions, both of which we haven't seen in the game so far, and I think it's really awesome to see the team expanding and branching out to new mission designs. For melee weapons are super fun. They're possibly some of the most fun weapons added to the game so far. I really quite enjoy the Brunball Bat. I think the Brunball Bat's my favorite melee weapon. For the revamp on the world design and everything like that, I think that Fnix Rising brings about some of the most interesting set pieces we've seen so far. You're going to hear me say that a lot throughout this little bit here. But really, branching out on things like exploration through parkour and through adventuring through locations, and bringing about this really awesome kind of alien vibe from the Fnix-made structures. The revamps to the map so far are really awesome. For the increased chance of experimental weapons, to me, this isn't as big of a factor, but I know for a lot of players out there, they have not enjoyed the grind. For me, I'm all about the Generation Zero grind. So, in a matter of empathizing to the community, I think that experimental weapons having an increased drop rate is only a good thing. For the Apocalypse Harvester, I think that we've finally seen another enemy to go toe-to-toe with the Apocalypse Hunter in terms of the toughest enemy in the game. The Apocalypse Harvester is a fantastic challenge. In comparison of Fnix Rising to Alpine Unrest, it is a shorter experience. But in my opinion, it's quality over quantity when it comes to Fnix Rising. And even though it's a bit of a shorter experience than Alpine Unrest itself, it is just as thrilling of an experience and just as world-changing of an experience in Generation Zero as Alpine Unrest was. And in its own way, it's even more monumental to the plot moving forwards. But all in all, I would give Fnix Rising a solid 10 out of 10. Hands down, the team have knocked it out of the park with this one.
Alright, this is my review on the new DLC Fnix Rising. The first thing I'm going to talk about is a little bit of the story. I find the story really cool. It's really different from what we've seen in mission design, especially in the base game without the Alpine Unrest DLC. There is some things that I'm not sure if I like too much about the actual mission design, because there's not a lot of lore. There's more like, especially side missions, they tell you to go over here, and then over here, destroy that, and then you're done. But with the main missions and the new DLC, there's more lore to it. But it feels a bit, I'm not sure how to say it, but it doesn't feel, as lengthy. if that makes sense. It feels more like, okay, you found us, which now is the character Kalle. You found him on an island, which I'm standing on right now. You go to a resistance camp in the farmlands region, and you camp out and hang out, meet all the characters that you really don't know the name of. But the cool thing is, there's characters that you know, or known before, like Anita and, well, Kalle as well, because he was mentioned in the base game, but he wasn't seen or heard from anywhere. There was no lines, like voice lines, but only text and mentions like that. But yeah, that's the story, and the mission designs as well. The one thing I really like about this DLC is the melee weapons. The community has been asking for this for a long time now, and the fact that we actually have it now is really cool. That's one of the reasons I like the Fnix Rising DLC a little bit more than the Alpine Unrest, because they introduced so many things that we've always wanted for a long time. For example, the melee weapons and the prone ability, which was in the beta but was removed later on for some reason. But yeah, the melee weapons are really cool. Okay, they did also change the map a little bit, like the southern part of the farmlands and the south coast region. Things that they've added are, well, these Fnix structures that looks amazing. They've also took assets from the Alpine Unrest DLC and put them on the south coast and a little bit in the farmlands region, but not too much. But like the Kunsam store and the ruined, destroyed houses and like items and props and stuff like that. So that's basically what they've done with the map. Now, right, so they've also added a if we go back to the Alpine Unrest DLC, we got the new machine type, the Apocalypse class. And in this DLC, the Fnix Rising, we got another member of the Apocalypse class, which is the Harvester. And, well, we've been questioning the devs where the Harvester is in the Apocalypse version. But they said, as I remember, they said it would just be kind of pointless, just because it's a harvester. It harvests parts, oil, whatever Fnix needs to survive, or the machines, I guess. So I don't think it would actually need to be upgraded to Apocalypse class. But that's just what they said before, but now they've actually added it, so that's really cool. It adds a bit more difficulty, which I like, definitely. Especially with the addition of the Apocalypse Hunters and the other classes. Very cool. Now, of course, the two DLCs, Alpine Unrest and Fnix Rising, they differ a little bit when it comes to quality and map design and how much things have been added in both DLCs. Now, if we're talking about the newest one, Fnix Rising, most of Farmlands region has been changed, but not much. And the whole South Coast region hasn't been changed 100%, but that's just because it hasn't been worked on for several months, but more like 3 months. The Alpine Unrest, however, got a lot more time, and they had a little bit more assets and things to put in just because it's a new island. So yeah, but in general, which one is better? Can't really say. Maybe the Fnix Rising, just because they added melee weapons and prone, and they fixed a bunch of glitches that kind of broke the game a little bit. So I'm gonna say the Fnix Rising might just be a tiny bit better than the Alpine Unrest. Now, if I would rate this new DLC from 1 to 10, I would say a solid 9, pretty much. Why not a 10 out of 10? Well, that's just because they didn't change the whole Farmlands region and the South Coast. I was expecting a little bit more in change, like the Alpine Unrest, which absolutely, like, they had a new island, but here they have the base map. But yeah, if you compare it to the May update and this other update, which I don't remember when it came out, but they actually changed the archipelago region up a lot and made it a lot more alive. I was expecting more of that stuff in this DLC, and yes, it did come with that, but not as much. And they're probably gonna release a updated version of the South Coast with newer assets and many other things included in the new Alpine Unrest and that update that changed the Archipelago region. And yeah, that's basically my review of this new DLC. And there's not really much more to say, because I don't really want to spoil anything. So I'm gonna have to leave it here. See ya.
Hello, I am Mark, YouTube markandcheese.b, and I'm going to give my opinion and review of the Fnix Rising DLC and compare it to Alpine Unrest. The story for the DLC was good in multiple ways. I think it's a little bit slightly worse than Alpine Unrest, but that just may be due to how much shorter it is. It's short. It kind of sets itself up for another DLC, which is good or bad depending on who you are. I like it because that means we get a big content update in the future. The mission design of Fnix Rising, the ideas were good. The missions were fun, but it appears that some major glitches had happened, especially with the truck mission, and those need to definitely be fixed because it ruins the experience for other players. I personally have not experienced them, but some others have, and it's unfortunate that they don't get to experience the story. So those glitches do need to be fixed. Melee weapons are great. I can't wait for it to be expanded on with like a hunter sword maybe, or a fire axe, maybe an EMP sledge, or a electric wired up bat, or an EXP Thor hammer or something. They're really fun to use. It's a little bit kind of dumb sometimes because I have a bunch of ammo and so do many others, but it's really fun to use. The map was one of the things I was most excited for. It's unfortunate that they couldn't get most of the farmland done, but the lower half is great, and the entire south coast with Fnix bases about is awesome. I can't wait for the rest of the world to be expanded, especially the north coast and the Alvarette Plains. I would love to see some resistance bases there that are fighting the tanks. The increased chance of EXP weapons I really like. I like the fact that new players and old players that got here post EXP weapon drop patch can get weapons, because before rivals would just drop them all the time. Level 4 rival pretty much guaranteed. Now it's about maybe a 20, 30, 40% chance to drop one on a level 4 tank. The Epoch Harvester I think is a really good thing to put in. We were missing an Epoch Harvester. It looks good, it feels good, it's a nice challenge. It's not too challenging since the AI debuff, which I'll talk about. But yes, the Epoch Harvester I have a good opinion on. It was, in my opinion, worse than Alpine Unrest. Alpine Unrest added a whole new island and longer DLC, more missions I think, and the LMGs and Apocalypse class. Now I know they were under a crunch due to the pandemic, but that's just my opinion, that Alpine Unrest was better as a DLC. But hopefully the next one, if there is one, is better than both combined. The Fnix Rising DLC I will rate a 6 out of 10, maybe a 7 out of 10. Alpine Unrest would be 8, 8.5, 9. And then the final thing is the AI nerf, which is a welcome thing. We lost after it. A lot of people left the game. I was still in it, but the game was really hard for new players. People kept asking for help, and EXP weapons not being a thing didn't help anybody. Endgame, you were running around with the gold AI 76. If you were lucky. If you could even get that far before giving up. But yeah, that is my opinion on the Fnix Rising DLC for Lucid's YouTube video.
So anyways, huge thanks to everyone who has been having a review in my video. So all the YouTubes will be in the description. So go check out Tenebris, Burgerplayer, Mark and Cheese, and sub to them maybe, if you're interested in their content. So I'm gonna have my own review right now. So yeah, So first I'm gonna talk about the Fnix Rising story, without spoiling too much. So, I think it was very good. It had some really good parts in it that really cleared up some stuff about the story, and you met characters like Kalle and Veronica, and it feels so awesome to just meet them and see how they are and stuff. Also, the missions in the DLC was really fun. My favorite one must be the truck mission, just because it's so different and yeah. But I know that a lot of people have encountered bugs in the missions and stuff, so that kinda ruins it for some people. For example, I have a bug, but it doesn't ruin everything. But yeah. So another thing I really like about the DLC is the melee weapons, which is a Brenball bat and a sledge, and they both fit their own like places in the game. They are both useful. I don't think there's an best one, and I like that it's not too hard to get, but it's pretty hard to get the best ones. So I like that challenge to get them, and they are really fun and just another way to play the game, I guess. So that's a really good thing. Now, the increased chance of experimental weapons is one thing that happened, and that's something that really made me happy, because I only had the experimental PVG or the Klauka, I think, those two, and and the experimental KVM. So now after the DLC I have every experimental weapon. Mostly of them is from trading, but some of them is from drops, for example the AG4 and the KPs I got from drops, which is really nice, and I know a lot of people in the community also liked that, so that is a good change in my opinion. So there was also a new harvester added, the Apocalypse one, which is really nice to have, because we needed that one, and it was kinda missing. I thought it was weird to not have it, and I thought it would be really hard to fight it because it would spawn like Apocalypse hunters, but it's actually not that bad. I think it's a good challenge, you can't underestimate it, but it's also not too hard, and it's really fun to fight, and its abilities is super good. In my opinion, I think the Alpine West DLC was not as good as Fnix Rising, just because I didn't think the Alpine West DLC had such a great story. It didn't really have to do anything with the main story or anything, and I don't think they had as good likable characters and stuff. But it's still good. But I think the Fnix Rising DLC is a little better because all the things it added. So, my rating for the Fnix Rising DLC must be a 9 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10 just because there's some bugs, but if they get fixed, it's an easy 10 out of 10 for me. Just because they did such a good thing with the game in such a short time span, and with all this pandemic and stuff, they just blew it out of the park, and just like that. So that was my review of the Fnix Rising DLC. As I said, all of the people who have been featured in this video is in the description, and huge thanks to them, because it wouldn't be possible without them. And how about you guys who are watching this, leave a short review in the comments and a rating. It would be really interesting to see. But anyways, have a good one.